After my twin flame love reading rant yesterday, things started to turn around actually quite quickly. And one of the things I'm reflecting on is where rants come from is essentially a feeling of defeat over something. It's like it's an explosion. And I'm reminded that when I feel that kind of passion and fire inside me, one of the things that is naturally happening is I'm burning away a whole lot of stuff that I don't need. Another thing I'm reflecting on is, as much as that piece came from like a voice of advice, it came from inside me. And so naturally, it is a reflection of what's happening inside of me. I felt called to do a reading on this dynamic, this shifting dynamic in terms of how we engage with the information that is shared through these types of readings. These types of readings I'm referring to twin flame readings, so that, the word doesn't just trigger us and make us run from all of the information. Because it doesn't really matter actually at the end of the day how something is delivered if the listener is responsible. I think it would be more responsible for the information to be delivered with more wisdom, but again, we can't control what's happening outside of us. We can only manage ourselves. One of the things that came up for me as I was preparing to do this reading was the Magician. The Magician being the card of the manifester. And this felt like a reminder as we engage with content to realize that we have a choice to take it in and use it as a tool for manifestation. So like, as you're listening to something, you should remain aware that what you take in is what you're manifesting. Manifestation is a privilege. And so, again, discernment comes up because you can engage with the information either as something you want to take for yourself, manifest, or something you want to use to transmute something within yourself. So if a toxic energy comes up, which toxic part of yourself is it revealing? Because what was coming to mind, I was picturing this, is the only things we can attract are things that are on a similar frequency and a similar vibration to us. If someone has invaded your energy space, that means there is a resonance. It may be hard to accept, but when I started to engage it on this level, I realized, wait a minute. I can't just pick the nice parts of the twin flame narrative and discard the rest, or any reading, any love reading, and just leave the rest because it sounds a bit difficult to consume or to actually take on as my own. So when I'm listening to content about the divine masculine, whether it's presented as a person or an aspect of myself, if I'm frustrated by how he's showing up, perhaps that's an internal frustration in terms of how I'm showing up for myself. Turned around, if I hear of someone who's invaded, let's say, my sacral energy, some devilish energy, perhaps that's the confusion that I sometimes find myself in as I'm creating and as I'm designing my work. Because essentially that toxic energy is a distraction. And distraction maybe is not even the right word. Let's rather use interruption, a slow down. What do we have to look at here? When I look at these things this way, I find this incredibly empowering. It's information about myself. It's information about what I can work on. Very direct information. In fact, more direct than asking the cards like an open-ended question like, what do I have to heal? And I think that's why this energy is like, I want to say, undulating. It's like it goes up and down. We're always trying to find a balance. We never always completely in balance all the time, consistently. And perhaps that's why these readings keep being fed through people. And so then what I'm learning from this is that the self is what needs an adjustment, which again, I find incredibly empowering because I can only manage my own actions and my own perspective. What's outside, I cannot manage that. If I'm trying to manage what's outside, I'm projecting, I'm not looking at myself. And so these are the lessons and insights that are coming through after my own 10 of Swords moment. And when I was engaging with one of the comments, I was like, yeah, maybe not my best healer voice, you know that when you pick up, perhaps there was some judgment, all of those things. And I'm not berating myself or anything. I'm actually seeing value in a rant. The reason why the 10 of Swords is even in the deck means it's a valid point. It's a valid point in the journey. That ultimate, like, whether it's frustration or just feelings of defeat. To deny feelings of defeat is actually to deny yourself one of the necessary processes to transmuting energy and to transforming. And so it's valid. Something else that's been bothering me is healing, and that is my relationship with the performance of this channel, Pyramid Energy. I moved through a time where I was feeling very triggered by how the numbers were moving, like the subscriptions. And again, this is not something I should fixate on, but it's like information I'm faced with, and I'm human, right? But as I posted that rant yesterday, I had like absolutely no care for analytics, titles, anything. I was just like, just say what it is. Yeah, it's a rant. And I just put it there. And initially hadn't even put a description. And I was just like, it's going to be triggering. Whoever sees it and wants to actually hear what I have to say will click on it. And whoever doesn't, well, this is the situation we are faced with. And it's been so interesting, given what I said, or whether it's the title or the actual content inside the video, I saw numbers drop. But I actually found this comforting. Why? Because that speaks to the quality of subscribers. And again, this is not putting anyone down at all. What I'm actually saying is, it's good to know that when someone doesn't want to listen to something, they do leave. And it's good to know that when someone does want to listen to something, they stay. And again, subscriptions have no bearing on who watches a video, to be honest. I've watched this stuff and I've learned about it. It has nothing to do with it. But when you want to say something that feels true, that truth might be unpopular. That shouldn't slow you down from sharing what you feel is true. Because otherwise you're stopping yourself from the opportunity to grow through your work because of other people. And what should really happen, again, is to make sure that you continue to express yourself and to trust that the information will reach where it needs to at the right time. And if there are few people, either through access, opportunity, or openness, whatever the reason, I can actually fall back on this and trust that whoever's ready or whoever needs to hear what I have to say, it will reach them, whether that's 5 people or 1 million. It's actually all of that in between. While I might have some level of influence over it, is not something I need to carry. And I'm finding these last few weeks just such a gift, because they really are connecting me with, again, why I do what I do, and it allows me to be exposed to such rich conversation. So thank you. There's even more being confirmed to me just around union, because, if the topic itself is becoming heated, that, I'm speaking to a boiling point type of thing. This speaks to the importance of the topic at this time. It speaks to the importance of the topic at this time, which is actually a big confirmation. As I said that, I had 1111. I have the Ace of Pentacles, which speaks to opportunity. I have the 7 of Cups, which speaks to options we have. And I have the Lovers, which speaks to choices. So this is exactly it, what I was saying about manifestation. These cards are popping out at me, and they're not cards I'm necessarily laying down for a spread. Because I wanted to remember which cards to show on the screen later as I'm editing, I pulled out my notebook to note them down, and I actually found a piece I wrote yesterday on twin flame karma. This is as I was coming down from this rant. It says, things are going to start turning around now that we know that we are actually working through internal karma. Where soulmate matters have been healed, these areas of our lives have improved. Karmics and the chatter they were creating in our internal narratives have cleared, and we have been empowered through this. The soulmate that has endured, the one we admire, that one that still lingers back, the reason we are fixated on them is because they live inside of us, and they are the solution to our shortfalls. The way we speak to them and how we speak to them is what we are actually addressing within ourselves. Where a karmic's energy lingers is where there still lies a confusion devil inside of us that reminds us we are not valuable and not worthy. Where does your masculine feel unworthy? When were they conditioned to believe that stepping out of the ordinary will only hurt them and leave them feeling exposed? Why are they so afraid to try something new? Here is a fear of following your intuition. Here is where you think there are many others who might be better at what you do than you. 1331 on my clock. More and more, I'm also struggling to decipher these two aspects. Like, I'm wondering more and more, why are we tackling them so separately when all of us have both within us, and so many of these energies are intertwined and overlapping? I've really been asking myself this. And again, when you look at these other videos, in the comments section, you have men and women. The title is Divine Feminine. So now I'm understanding better why it's labeled as that. But essentially, they're actually talking about and thrashing out issues of both aspects. And so I'm finding it less and less important, less and less valuable to even use the labels. And I might still use them, I might still use them. I'm going to stay open. But how do you heal your connection and your relationship with your intuition if you feel unsafe? These are the kinds of questions I'm asking myself. And the more and more we come closer into unity, the more and more they're going to overlap. So more and more I'm getting confirmation that we are actually very close to this concept of union that once seemed impossible. And at the same time, I'm faced by the very real feeling fact that my soulmate is approaching. So these are all real. I can't accept one part of my intuition and deny another part because of trauma that I seem to have gathered on the streets of YouTube. And I'm laughing to myself here because more and more I'm realizing that the options here, the possibilities, are infinite. This is as far as it concerns our power, our influence, our abilities. Just a year ago, a lot of this stuff felt so flighty. And now it's palpable. And it is through our engagements, it is through our sharing, it's through our expression, and I want to say it is thanks to access to each other that we enjoy through YouTube. Sometimes I just want to hit YouTube with a hammer, but other times I just want to give it a hug. I sometimes come up with these conspiracy theories and I realize they're not unfounded, but I don't think there's anyone more falling off their seat more than the guy who sits in the back office of YouTube and sees all the information about this rising category of content. Rest assured, they are also getting sucked into the truth. I'm still trying to shuffle here and get some cards out, but I'm interrupted by needing to share the gratitude that I have for your beautiful minds. When I engage with the comments, for me, there's nothing like engaging with the comments on Pyramid Energy. Other threads are interesting. They are interesting, but they're often sprinkled by stuff that doesn't seem to connect with the video as the way I have, if you know what I mean. And I'm not saying here we're all on the same page. That's not actually what I'm saying. I'm saying the way you work through information, for me, is beautiful. And the credit goes to the person, the individual, who's directing their mind and allowing their mind to go to these places and allowing their mind to share their version of the truth. It feels like a deeply intelligent space. It feels like one of those lecture halls you stumble upon, like you're just drifting through this like dark corridor and you see a door with a little bit of light coming through, and you open it and you realize you're actually just lucky you noticed it, because so many people could miss it. And perhaps because there are not that many people compared to what's out there on YouTube. But perhaps it's the lecture hall that's made the difference. And when I think of a beautiful mind, I am reminded of, what's that actor's name? Russell Crowe, and that movie, A Beautiful Mind. And they actually show you these visuals. I watched this such a long time ago, but they show you the visuals of his mind moving and analyzing. And I do believe there was a lot done in a lecture hall. I'm going to go watch that movie again. I've just laid this spread out, and the time on my actual clock, the time here right now, is 11:11. And just based on the colors, you'll have them on the screen now. Just based on the colors in the midline, I'm seeing green and I'm seeing blue. And what this is speaking to me about very much is heart healing. I'm finding the spread looking visually very balanced, and I'm seeing sudden realizations, mind shifting, mind altering realizations showing up in where we're coming from, which for me is yesterday. And in the tomorrow space, I'm seeing judgment, and I don't know why I'm using yesterday and tomorrow. And in the main area here, in the middle, I'm seeing the Two of Swords, the Five of Cups crossed by the Two of Swords, and this to me feels like today. This to me feels like Five of Cups. What am I keeping? What am I letting go of? Yes, there have been disappointments and confusion, but the message from the spread, and it's not speaking to me card by card, it's speaking to me as a whole, and it's saying, let us not be discouraged by the narrative out there in terms of what we really know and feel is taking place regarding union. Again, this speaks to time, and how time is an illusion, and how you're never late to the party. There are parts of me that yesterday that felt like I was late to a party. You know, we all reach certain realizations at different times based on the information we have within us and what we're capable of in the moment. And so this doesn't mean that, you know, people are left behind and people are ahead. This is not even that. It's that if you feel union is taking place within you, feel that and know that. Because it has felt like a unattainable sort of goal. Again, it speaks to the narrative. And I keep going back to that love reading, the union reading with the thunder. This one. And I've been unpacking what was the message of the thunder. And with the thunder, I've been researching, you know, and I hope I don't get this wrong, and maybe I will, but I think my message will come across. Lightning is what happens when the protons, being the positive neutrons, and the electrons, being the negative neutrons, flip. I did so badly in science at school, but like I have to make this make sense for myself, and I hope the word neutron is right, because I don't want to open Google now. I started explaining this myself and realized I was going to butcher it. So it says here, in the early stages of development, air acts as an insulator between the positive and negative charges in the cloud, and between the cloud and the ground. When the positive charges build up enough, this insulating capacity of the air breaks down, and there is a rapid discharge of electricity that we know as lightning. And here is where I see this link, is that and I read this, that the earth and the atmosphere assist each other in regaining balance. So the earth cannot be too positive and the atmosphere cannot be too negative. These need to meet and balance each other halfway. When I look at the earth and any conversation around the earth, I see myself as being part of the earth and as being the mother. And when I see the atmosphere, I see the atmosphere as information, and I see the atmosphere as the father. And so these need each other to balance each other out. And as they reach that point of contact, that's when lightning happens. That's when thunder happens. And that's the love. And I think this is why we cannot expect ourselves to be constantly, consistently in balance. Balance is balance by nature. It's slightly up and slightly down, and you try stay as close within it as possible, but it makes no sense for it always to be in that state. It's constantly finding its balance. This is nature. In the Page of Wands, at the top of mind, I see a new freedom taking place with how we engage with all of this information. The information that is out there and that is available. I find I'm seeing more free expression, less fear of being wrong. In the subconscious, I'm seeing, again, this card, this Three of Cups is speaking to me about freedom of building community without fear, through camaraderie. That's the word that's coming through. And the 3 is giving me balance. The Knight of Wands in the advice section is the reminder to remain free and to not feel like anything is being rushed, that any perception is being rushed. In the surrounding factors, the Emperor is telling me that we're all going to be feeling so much safer, so much more secure, and very much empowered by all of this new perspective. The Fool is reinforcing in the biggest fear and the biggest desire. The Fool is reinforcing this fear of completely letting go, this fear of embracing new thinking, but a deep desire to do it. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier around not feeling discouraged by how the narrative is going externally. If you feel yourself being drawn into union, go with it. And I believe this is why it's often communicated with all this romance. Even the thunder, I mean, there's a fear that comes with thunder, like what's going to be damaged during this lightning or thunderstorm, what's going to be damaged, you know? But you want it to continue. It's like this tension. It's this tension. And it does have a romantic energy about it, thunder. And in the outcome, I got the Queen of Pentacles. When I asked for clarity, I got the Queen of Wands. You know, the Queen of Pentacles speaks to me about a knowing of one's value and one's self-worth. And the Queen of Wands is around the vision that one has, the plans. There is an allure about the Queen of Wands. This is very much speaking to me about a self-admiration. And I asked for more clarity and I got the Devil, but it fell sideways. And this speaks to me, if you look at the Devil card here, he's got his hand out, pulling you in. And so what this tells me is that when confusion arises, because it will arise. When confusion arises, it is an invitation. In clearing it up, more will be revealed. There is a reason the Devil exists. And to not necessarily invite the Devil in, but it is to not fear the Devil when the Devil appears. And for me, this is very much rapid growth that I'm seeing coming up very quickly. This is rapid growth because this is a new way of engaging with information. It's a new way of seeing oneself as they go out and are affected by external stuff. There's a more important conversation happening inside. And so there's the intuition inside, but we've got access to other people's intuition to confirm us. And as we interact with it, we're given a big opportunity to make choices with each and every word that we encounter. But knowing our value and knowing what feels right and what doesn't feel right, we're getting information much quicker than we were getting it before. I'm going to close this session here because it feels like it's getting long. And I want to thank you for your community. Sending you love. If you're interested in a personal reading from me, I've left my details below in the description box.